know that Jimmy was truly one of us. He loved to have fun. He was a party casser. And I know he's pleased, though, with the progress that we've made over the last 37 years since his death. I know he'd also be the first to congratulate this year's Jimmy A. Young medalist, Carrie Earl George. Using up all that clapping just yet. We got a little more here. Carrie began his career in 1973 in Freeport, Illinois. I know most of you think he's always been in Iowa, but he hasn't. In '77, he became the respiratory therapy program director at Des Moines Area Community College, where he remains today. So that's why we see him as an Iowan. Like all of us, he started at the bottom and worked his way up. Along the way, he found time to pay it forward and contribute to his profession. Not just preparing respiratory therapists to be our patients' best asset, but also dedicating his professional life to helping us better serve our patients' needs by promoting excellence in respiratory therapy education and assuring initial and continuing competency. Through his work over the last several decades, Carrie, by extension, has helped countless patients and respiratory therapists every bit as much as the scientific basis on which our profession was founded. We must have both pieces in order to succeed. He represented our patients and our profession's interests with passion during his years of service to our profession. He served in AARC's House of Delegates, on the AARC Board of Directors, on the NBRC Board of Trustees, as a commissioner and a director on the Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs. He held several offices and appointments besides that with both AARC and NBRC. And in 1997, he served as AARC's president. And actually was my boss for a year, which, if you think he's a little crazy, that might have done that. He's now concluding his term as president of the NBRC. His most recent project, under his leadership at NBRC, has been the consolidation of the CRT and written RRT exams into one multiple choice exam. To me, this is perhaps the most profound change our credentialing system has undergone in over a quarter of a century. I've had the privilege of knowing Carrie for a number of years and observed the sacrifices he has had to make to help us help patients. I also had the honor of knowing Jimmy A. Young. Folks, they're cut from the same cloth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carrie George to the stage. Carrie?
When Diane Lewis called to inform me of this tremendous, unbelievable honor, I was speechless. For those of you who know me, I'm not very often speechless. I'll try not to make up for that this morning, but I do have a few comments I want to make. First, I want to thank Jimmy Albert Young for having accomplished so much for our profession. Sam kind of listed some of the things that Jimmy did in his very short life. In fact, I've been involved with the AARC and had a career longer than Jimmy's entire life. Jimmy set a very high bar for those of us who continue this profession of respiratory therapy. Thank you, Jimmy, for challenging us to keep respiratory therapy vital and vibrant. Really doesn't quite seem fair for me to receive an honor like this for having had so much fun over the last 40 years as a respiratory therapist and serving our profession. I've been truly fortunate to have the career and opportunities that I've been able to experience. Very fortunate that Freeport Memorial Hospital chose to hire an on-the-job trainee, a new graduate from the University of Illinois who never heard of inhalation therapy before the day I got that job. Never heard of it before that day. Fortunate that while I was working at Freeport Memorial Hospital, I met a student nurse named Lynn Logeman. Fortunate that the University of Chicago Hospital and Clinic School of Respiratory Therapy chose to allow me to attend their advanced respiratory therapy program. Fortunate that that student nurse, Lynn Logeman, chose to become my wife, has been my best friend, supporter, and confidant for 39 years. Fortunate enough to have been challenged by so many dedicated professional respiratory therapists who helped me learn along the way that I wanted to have an influence on the future of this profession by becoming an educator. Fortunate that Des Moines Area Community College in Ankeny, Iowa chose to hire me to be program director for the respiratory program, even though I had no background in education. Fortunate to have educational mentors like Keith Blackmore, Carol Bennett, Larry Ebers, and John Van Ast, who helped me develop a passion for promoting learning. Fortunate that Des Moines Area Community College has supported my involvement in all the professional activities in which I've had the privilege to be involved. Fortunate that members of the Iowa Society for Respiratory Care have elected me to very many offices and capacities within their organization. Fortunate to have been able to serve in the AARC House of Delegates during the early 1980s and to develop from that involvement a true desire to make a difference for our profession. Fortunate that I was able to be elected president of the AARC and make some contributions. Fortunate to have been appointed to the National Board for Respiratory Care. Fortunate to have respiratory therapy mentors like Bill Morrison, Sam Giordano, John Walton, Gary Smith, Charlie Brooks, Jerry Eiserman, and Trudy Watson, and many, many others. Fortunate that my wife Lynn and our children Chris and Jessica have been willing to share me with this wonderful profession that I love so much. They came to know that our summer vacations would always involve the location of the AARC Summer Fair. They tolerated my being gone for many important events in their lives because I was at a meeting somewhere. 38 years ago this month, I flew from Madison, Wisconsin to Los Angeles International Airport, took a bus from there to here in Anaheim, where I took my oral exams at the Grand Hotel and achieved my registered respiratory therapist credential. It's quite a circle. I've been blessed to have tremendous opportunities to be involved in the profession of respiratory therapy. And I've tried to influence students and others to make this a wonderful profession as we move into the future. Throughout my career, I focused first on what's good for the patients and what's best for the patients who need the care of respiratory therapists. I focused second on what's best for our profession. And through that, I'm proud to say that I feel that focusing on these things has hopefully been positive for the respiratory therapists of today and tomorrow. Thank you very much for this tremendous honor.
We have these little lapel pins, and we're both married, so we're not going to go steady or anything. But I do want to pin him as best I can, and probably not very successfully. Well, hell, okay. Sorry. I'm sorry.